Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. Welcome to the Prog Corner, where today we are going to be exploring the top 25 prog solo artists of all time. Last couple weeks we did the top 100 prog bands of all time, and that was great. It was really hard, but I figured this would be really easy. I didn't expect this to give me any trouble at all. I figured just rattle off another episode of 20 artists and I'd be done with it. But as I was going through, I realized I could have easily done a top 40. I settled down on a top 25 here today. The same criteria are in effect from what we did with the top bands. There are two kinds of solo artists, it would appear. There are those that were never really associated with a band, and those that had a main band, a mothership, and then they went solo, broke free from it. I am including both kinds of artists, but the kind of artist I am not including today, and I'm cheating here a little bit, the electronic solo artists, I am not going to include today. Vangelis, Jean-Michel Jarre, Kitaro, Tomita, the great Klaus Schultz, Wendy Carlos. They kind of deserve their own episode, and it made room for some other people. Ian Anderson, not on this list. I figure the Jethro Tull stuff and the Ian Anderson stuff is kind of one and the same, so I'm not including him. Chris Squire's not on the list. He had one perfect album, but is that enough to be one of the top solo artists of all time? Probably not. Some people had recommended Pat Metheny, Jonas Lindberg, somebody talked about, Royna Stalt, John Wetton, David Sylvian, and Roy Harper were also mentioned. Great suggestions. They're not on the list. The one that hurt me the most, one of my personal favorite prog artists, did not make the list, Jean-Pierre Louboutin. But anyway, we're getting to the list proper right now with no further interruptions at number 25. It's Phil Collins. Born January 30th, 1951 as Philip David Charles Collins. This guy was born to be in show business. At the age of like 12, he was the Artful Dodger in the West End production of whatever that was called. Oliver Twist, that kind of thing. Then he was in some band called the Flaming Youths. But the big deal came when he got the call to audition for Genesis. And his solo career, not super proggy. That's why he's at number 25. Face value at 1981. Hello, I Must Be Going, 82. No Jacket Required, 85. But seriously, folks, in 89, those four 80s Phil Collins albums set him up as one of the biggest artists of all time. And it kind of would feel wrong to not include Phil Collins on this list, even if he doesn't deserve it. At number 24, it's Björk. Björk Gudmundsdottir, born on November 21st, 1965 in Iceland. There must be something going on in Iceland. It's this tiny little island with a population of like 150,000, but you got Sigur Rós, you got Björk, you got all this amazing music coming off this tiny little island. Björk began in a band called Sugar Cubes. They released 3 albums that were actually really, really good, solid indie rock, and then she went solo. And is her music prog? I don't know. It's surely progressive. Check out her first album, debut in 1993, or Post in 1995, Homogenic in 1997, Vespertine in 2001. That's pretty prog to me. I don't know about you guys. At number 23, it's Steve Howe. Yeah. Born April 8th, 1947 in Holloway. He had been busy with some psychedelic bands in the late 60s, the Syndicats, Tomorrow, Bodast. He'd been doing quite a bit of session work. Obviously, the big break came when he joined Yes. And his solo career is very up and down. That's why he's so far down on this list. But his first 3 are really, really good. Beginnings in 1975. The Steve Howe album in 1979 and Turbulence in 1991 are just fantastic. His homebrew series is really cool, like home demos and stuff like that. And in 2020, he dropped an album called Love Is, which is really, really good. At number 22 is Argent Anthony Lucasen, the brains behind the Arion Project, Star One. Is he a solo artist? I don't know. Is he prog? Is he metal? Again, I don't know. One of Holland's greatest exports. This guy... was in some bands early on called Bodine and a band called Vengeance. Then he decided he'd just do some solo stuff. His first album came out in 1995, The Final Experiment. 1996, The Actual Fantasy. But it was in 1998 and Into the Electric Castle where people started taking notice of Arion. 2000's Universal Migrator, parts 1 and 2, fantastic. 2004, The Human Equation. And let's not forget 2020's Transitus. This guy's amazing. If you like, heavy metal, space operas, you're going to love his music. At number 21, speaking of a spaced out dude, how about Steve Hillage, born August 2nd, 1951 in the Waltham Forest. He started up a group called Uriel with Mont Campbell early on. Then he did a record as Arzikal in 1969, which is a really cool prog psych record. He's been associated with Khan. He was on that great Space Shanty album. He was in Gong for a while, but we're talking about the solo stuff. So you're looking at Fish Rising in 1975. That had all the members of Gong in it. L from 1976. That had all the members of Utopia in it, except Todd. Motivational Radio, 1977, Green, 1978, that had the Nick Mason production. He started getting a little funky, and then Rainbow Dome Music in 79 was like real droney and ambient. He's been associated with some dance stuff, System 7. Steve Hillage is everywhere. His guitar playing, he's just amazing. I love him. At number 20, the aforementioned Todd Rundgren. Yeah, his solo career is all over the place. Some of it's prog, some of it's not. But when you put out records like Something Anything in 1972, or Wizard or True Star in 1973, or Todd in 74, or Initiation in 75, you're probably going to be on this list. He's a producer par excellence, Grand Funk Railroad, Meatloaf, Cheap Trick, XTC, the New York Dolls, the Tubes. The word is that he was originally supposed to be that guy producing Janis Joplin's last album, Pearl, but Todd was busy. Todd is amazing, and yeah, he's prog, and he deserves to be on this list. At number 19, it's your favorite soap opera director. Yeah, it's Xavier Fidu. He started out directing episodes for CBS's Passions, and then he went to The Young and the Restless, and then he moved in 2007 or 2008. I think he moved over to ABC with General Hospital, where he's been ever since. But all at the same time, he's been doing these great prog records. He put out a record called Friction in 93, which was, he's kind of disowned that one. 10 years later, Fiendish came out, and that was great. But then he started working on his great dystopian trilogy that began in 2006 with The Great Leap, his masterpiece 2007's Doomsday Afternoon, and it was finished up in 2018 with Infernal. This guy's amazing. He's not capital P prog, but he brings in so many different influences in his music. If you don't know Fidu, you need to check him out. At number 18, a guy you probably do know a little something about is David Gilmour. Yeah, born in March 6, 1946 in Cambridge. Dude only has 4 solo albums, so that's probably why he's down a little bit on this list, but I like all 4. The debut came out in 78, and then About Face in 84, On an Island in 2006, and then 2015's Rattle and Lock. Yeah, all 4 records are really good, but let's not forget that David Gilmour is the guy that discovered Kate Bush and brought her to prominence. At number 17, it's John Anderson. Yeah, a guy that's going to get penalized for having a real spotty discography. There's some good stuff in there, and there's some really bad stuff in there. Overall, he's got like 15 solo albums, but of course, the best one was 1976's Elias of Sun Hillow. After that, he did Song of Seven in 1980, Animation in 82, Three Ships in 85, and then he started going pop and doing a lot of different world music kind of things. John's just all over the place, but I'm happy to report that his latest album, 2019's Thousand Hands, is really, really good, really strong record. It bodes well for John's solo career in the future. Let's hope he's got a couple more good records in him. Of course, John's worked with everybody. You know, he's worked with Vangelis, he's worked with Mike Oldfield, he worked with Jean-Luc Ponty. Yeah, John Anderson needs no introduction. On this channel, at number 16, we're going to Canada and Devin Townsend. This guy was born May 5th, 1972 in British Columbia. His first band was called Strapping Young Lad. Their first album, Heavy as a Really Heavy Thing. It was pretty much just Devin Townsend. He put out like a few records as that, and then he's put out records as the Devin Townsend Band, the Devin Townsend Project. I guess now it's just Devin Townsend. Yeah, I like most of his stuff. I guess he got a start. Steve Vai discovered him, and he went on tour with him, and that's when he started working on all his solo stuff. Another cool side note, in 2014, Devin put out a country album called The Casualties of Cool. I personally really like 2019's Empath. I think that's the peak of his discography. But yeah, if you like your prog a little heavier and a little more on the crazy end, Devin Townsend might be your guy. At number 15, we talked about her a little bit. It's Kate Bush. Why not? Is she prog? I don't know. I don't care. But here we are in 2022, and the whole world's in love with Kate Bush again. She was born July 30th, 1958 in Kent. She went to a St. Joseph's Convent School where she worked on some demos. One of them got into David Gilmour's hands, and the rest, as you say, is history. She's got 10 albums under her belt. Me personally, I like her first 3 the best. Those are the ones with the great Duncan McKay on keyboards, 1978's Kick Inside and Lionheart, and 1980's Never Forever. I really like those records. But then as we got into the 80s, she got real popular with 1982's The Dreaming, and of course 1982's The Hounds of Love with that song Running Up the Hill that everybody knows and loves from that Netflix TV show that shall not be mentioned. At number 14. It's Brian Eno, ladies and gentlemen. May 15th, 1948. He was born in Suffolk, UK. He went to the Winchester School of Art, and he was, pretty good sculptor from what I understand. He met up with the guys in Roxy Music and joined them. He's also well known for his production talent. He's produced everybody from Devo to Coldplay, Talking Heads, U2, David Bowie, you name it, Robert Fripp. Yeah, this guy's prog by association as much as anything. A lot of his discography tends to be that ambient kind of stuff, but his first 4 albums. Oh, this is why Brian Eno is on this list. 1974, Here Come the Warm Jets, and Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy. Both came out that year. 1975, Another Green World. A lot of people think that's his masterpiece. I myself am very partial to his 4th album, 1977's Before and After Science. But yeah, Brian Eno makes this list. Yeah, he does. At number 13. Oh, Roger Waters, boy, you are one confused boy. I sure would like to have you sit down here in the Prog Corner. We can talk about politics a little bit because you got a little bit twisted, but that's okay. We're not going to hold it against you. We love you. Born in September 6th, 1943 in Great Bookham, UK. He went to Regent Street Polytechnic where he met the guys in Pink Floyd, and that whole thing, happened, and that's history. But why is he on this list? Well, Roger put out 4 solo albums, just like his bandmate David Gilmour, but these 4 were even better, starting with 1984's The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, 1987's Radio Chaos, 1992's Amused to Death, and then took a long layoff before he released 2017's Is This the Life We Really Want? It's fantastic. But like I said, I'd like to get Roger Waters in here and we can talk about China and Russia and Israel, and maybe I could sort him out a little bit. At number 12. It's Fish, born April 25th, 1958 in Scotland as Derek William Dick. One can certainly understand why he went with a stage name. Obviously, he is best known for being the singer of Marillion for their first 4 great albums, and then he left, but his solo career has been really cool. His first couple were great, and then he kind of got away from the prog, but his last 2 were really, really good. His debut, 1990s Virgil, really good. 1994 Suits, I like a lot. Fellini Days from 2001, but like I said, his last 2 have been really, really good. The Feast of Consequences in 2013, and what he promised to be his final album, 2020's Weltschmerz. Fantastic stuff. I really like Fish a lot. At number 11, it's Anthony Phillips. Yeah, Ant was born December 23rd, 1951. He can be best described as the Pete Best of Prog. Yeah, he left after Genesis released Trespass. So he was not around for their glory years. I guess he suffered from a pretty large case of stage fright, so he really couldn't do it. And yeah, if he had stage fright, it wasn't going to get any better because Genesis got bigger and bigger and bigger. He wasn't gonna make it in that band, that's for sure. After he left Genesis, he took a lot of time off for his debut album, but it was worth it. 1977's The Geese and the Ghost. Wow, what an amazing record with the guests from Phil Collins and Michael Rutherford show up. His second album, Wise After the Event, 1978, 1979. Sides was really cool, a little poppier, but still a great record. He's been doing these private parts and pieces since 1978. He's up to like 11 different volumes of these homebrew kind of records, and they're all great. His last record came out in 2019, Strings of Light, very cool acoustic record. Anthony Phillips, just a master of the 12-string. At number 10, it's Captain Beefheart, Don Van Fleet, born January 15th, 1941 in Glendale. He left us December 17th, 2010. Dude only put out 13 albums, but oh my goodness. You know, everybody talks about his affiliation with Frank Zappa, and that's valid, but he carved out his own space. I mean, this guy was so influential that even Tom Waits changed his style after he listened to a couple Beefheart albums. Yeah, the first one came out in 1967. That was Safe as Milk. Label fired him. He put out a second album, Strictly Personal, in 68. Label fired him. Then Frank Zappa picked him up in 69, released that great Trout Mask replica on his label. And he put out a few good records along the way, some not so good records along the way, but he ended on a really high note, man. 1982's Ice Cream for Crow. I love that album so much. And I'm not the only one. XTC, we're devout fans of them. The Talking Heads, Velvet Underground, the Minutemen. Yeah, if you like real music, you're probably going to like Captain Beefheart at number 9. We're going to Sweden. It's Bo Hansen. Oh man, this guy never got the credit that he was due. He was born in northern Sweden in April of 1943. He left us in 2010, dying in Stockholm. He started out in a duo called Hansen and Carlson, which had actually got the attention of one Jimi Hendrix, who was touring and actually stopped his tour to go meet them and hang out and jam with them. And Jimi actually recorded a Bo Hansen song later on and did that song on tour quite a bit. He put out 4 amazing instrumental prog masterpieces. 1972's Lord of the Rings. Oh man, it's so good. 1973's The Magician's Hat. 1975 Attic Thoughts, and then 1977 Songs from Watership Down. All 4 of those albums are just incredible. I love him so much. Apparently in 85 he did a 5th album that I've never heard, which was only available in Sweden. Bo Hansen, man, I love him. If you don't know his music, you know what to do. At number 8, it's the great Neil Morris making this list. Born August 2nd, 1960 in Van Nuys. He and his brother Alan formed Spock's Beard, and that's where Neil became known. Neil found Jesus, so he quit Spock's Beard, he quits Transatlantic, and does a bunch of amazing solo albums. We're not talking about his worship albums. We're not talking about his singer-songwriter albums. We're talking about Neil Morris's Prog solo discography, and it's incredible, starting with 2003's Testimony, the double album telling the story of Neil's conversion. 2004's One, the story of how God and man are one. 2005, Question Mark, probably my favorite Neil Morris album about the tabernacle and God's mysteries. And 2007, Sola Scriptura came out, a great album about Martin Luther. 2008, Lifeline, very underrated. 2012, you had Momentum. The only slip up in Neil's solo discography for me, he did a prog rocks, some kind of, rock opera, Jesus Christ the Exorcist. Not crazy about it, but he came back super strong in 2020 with the solo album called Sola Gratia. Yeah, he's in Flying Colors. He's in the Neil Morris Band, Transatlantic. Neil's everywhere, but his solo work alone gives him this spot on the countdown. And now we're at number 7. And it's the great Peter Hamill, born Peter Joseph Andrew Hamill, November 5th, 1948 in London. Family moved to Manchester. I guess he went to Manchester University. His first solo album was actually supposed to be the first Van der Graaf Generator album. There was some trouble with the label Mercury. They did some little switcheroonies, so his first solo album became the first Van der Graaf Generator album, but his first actual solo album, 1971's Fool's Mate, I just love it. Then he focused on Van der Graaf Generator for a little while again, and then they broke up, so he put out a slew of great solo albums, primarily with the guys from Van der Graaf Generator, so it sounds very similar. Chameleon in the Shadows, 1973. The Silent Corner, The Empty Stage, 1974. In Camera, also 1974. Nader's Big Chance, 1975. What an album, so far ahead of its time. His breakup album, his sad album, 1977's Over, The Future Now from 1978, PH7 from 1979. The guy's solo career is just incredible. I love him so much. Everybody loves Peter Hamill, including Johnny Rotten. Everybody loves Peter Hamill. And number 6. It's Peter Gabriel, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, his solo career is not super prog, but it's very progressive. It's moved the needle for millions of people. There's a reason why Peter Gabriel has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame not once, but twice. In 2010 with Genesis, and then again in 2014 as a solo artist. His solo career has been nothing short of phenomenal. His debut came out in 1977. The sophomore album, 1978, was produced by Robert Fripp. His third album, 1980, changed the bar, changed everything. That was one of the first albums that had that gated reverb drum going on. The story about, Phil Collins showing up and Peter Gabriel had taken all the cymbals away. The fourth album, Security, in 1982, using that Fairlight synthesizer, which was brand new. And then he decided to blow up the world in 1986 with his world-beating record, So, with Sledgehammer and Big Time and Red Rain, and the duet with Kate Bush and all that stuff. Apparently, Pete's got a new album coming out either this year or later next year. It will be his first album of new material since 1992's Us. I'm really excited about it. Well, 2002's Up had new material too, so we're looking at 20 years since the last real Peter Gabriel album, and I, for one, am psyched. At number 5, it's the Caped Crusader, ladies and gentlemen, Rick Wakeman, CBE, born May 18th, 1949 in Middlesex. This boy went to the Royal College of Music. He did not graduate. He left. He was getting so much work as a session musician. Cat Stevens and David Bowie and Elton John. Then he joined the Strawbs, did a couple albums with them. The big break came when he joined Yes. Apparently, David Bowie offered him a spot on the Spiders of Mars. The same time, Yes offered him a gig with them, and he made the right choice. He absolutely did. His early solo stuff, just incredible. 1972, Six Wives of Henry VIII. Oh, forget about it. 1974, Journey from the Center of the Earth. 1975, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. 1976, No Earthly Connection. 1977, Criminal Record. Then he kind of cooled off a little bit, but 2003, Out There, amazing record with a great Damian Wilson on vocals. And then 2020's Red Planet, just amazing. Wakey's back. He's back in a big way. He's doing prog again. That's what he needs to be doing. Keep the jokes. We want the prog. At number 4, it's Steven Wilson. Born November 3rd, 1967 in London. Yeah, this is probably the most important guy in the prog universe in the last 20 or 30 years. Obviously, the first couple Porcupine Tree albums were kind of solo albums, but then he brought in some bandmates for Porcupine Tree. He's known for No Man, Bass Communion, Blackfield, Storm Corrosion, but we're going to talk about his solo records. The first one was in 2008, Insurgentes. 2011, Grace for Drowning, an amazing record. But then he just decided he was just going to put together a couple of masterpieces. 2013, The Raven That Refused to Sing, and 2015, Hand Cannot Erase. Incredible. Yeah, he's gone a little more pop since then with the 2017's To the Bone and 2021's The Future Bites, but they're actually good records. Yeah, they're not super progressive, but the songwriting's on point. The production's incredible. I love Steven Wilson. Can't wait for new solo material from him. At number 3, kind of makes me sad putting him at number 3, but I've got Steve Hackett. Yeah, born February 12th, 1950 in London, one day before Peter Gabriel was born. He put an ad in the Melody Maker magazine looking for a band. Well, Peter Gabriel saw it, and Anthony Phillips had just quit. So Steve got the call from Peter Gabriel, told him, hey, listen to the album Trespass before you come and audition, which apparently he did, and he nailed it. Steve's first solo album came out while he was still a member of Genesis, that fantastic 1975 Voyage of the Acolyte. He left Genesis shortly after Wind and Wuthering, and 1978's Please Don't Touch came out. Wow. Steve Walsh from Kansas. He had Richie Havens. I love that second album. A lot of people's favorite Hackett album is his third album, Spectrum Mornings, which came out in 79. 1980's Defector's really good, but the 80s were not good to Mr. Hackett. Like a lot of people, you had some real crap records like Cured and Highly Strung, mixed along with some of the classical records like Bay of Kings. He didn't really right the ship until 1996 with the Genesis Revisited stuff, and ever since his solo albums have been better and better and better. In fact, last year he put out 2 really good ones, Under the Mediterranean Sky and The Surrender of Silence, both great records. The man that taught Eddie Van Halen how to tap, yeah, he's got to be on this list at number 2. It's Mike Oldfield. Yeah, Mike Oldfield, the biggest selling prog solo artist of all time. That Tubular Bells album has sold like 70 million copies, and it made Richard Branson a millionaire. He was the very first artist signed by Branson for his nascent label Virgin, and he built a studio for the guy, and Tubular Bells came out in 1973, did really good, and then they started using it in the Exorcist movie, and the excerpt of the song became a big hit. His second album, Hergest Ridge in 1974, almost as good. His masterpiece was 1975's Omadon. Those 3 albums, you put them back to back to back. Is there a better trilogy in the history of rock music? I'm not sure, but he followed that up in 1978 with a great double album called Incantations, which was 4 sides, 4 songs. That sounds familiar. I wonder who else might have done that. 2017 saw Mike returning to Omadon with a great album called Return to Omadon. Yeah, dude left the UK a long time ago. He bought an island in the Bahamas, and he's been living the good life. But the reason Richard Branson's a multi-billionaire, Mike Oldfield. And at number one, in case you guys hadn't figured it out already, it's the one and only Frank Vincent Zappa, born December 21st, 1940, in Baltimore. Yeah, if your middle name is Vincent, that kind of makes sense, I guess. For some weird reason, I had no idea he was born in Baltimore. I always thought of him as a California guy. He left us December 4th, 1993. He put out 62 albums while he was alive, and there's been like another 50-something posthumously, so his entire discography of studio albums alone sits at 113 albums. It's just amazing. It's just ridiculous. This guy had the highest IQ of any musician probably ever. I think he's probably smarter than Bach and Beethoven and Mozart put together. Reportedly had an IQ of 180, which is insane, but it was on full display when he went before Congress, the PMRC hearings, where he just shredded Tipper Gore, made her look like an idiot. 1966 Freak Out came out. Talk about an album way ahead of its time. Is it the first Prog album? Kind of. It kind of is. But 1967, Absolutely Free. Wow, I love that album, man. Brown Shoes Don't Make It. Yeah, some of these albums are the mothers of invention, and some of these are not. It's the same thing. It's all Frank Zappa doing everything, writing all the songs. Yeah, some other dudes were playing, but you know how Zappa is. He was telling everybody exactly what to do. 1968, one of my favorite albums of all time. We're only in it for the money. Wow, what a great accompanying piece to Sgt. Pepper. 1969's Hot Rats. 1972, The Grand Wazoo. 1973's Overnight Sensation. 1974, Apostrophe. 1975, One Size Fits All. 1979, Chic Your Booty and Parts 1 and 2 of Joe's Garage. Yeah. I mean, you can make a case that Frank Zappa is one of the greatest artists of all time, regardless of genre. And that makes a lot of sense because I'm not even sure if Frank Zappa qualifies as prog. But there you go, guys. The top 25 prog solo artists of all time. This was a whole lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but it was a lot of fun. So anyway, let me know in the comments the people that I missed, the artists that you would have liked to have seen that I either forgot about or decided they weren't in the top 25. Subscribe, like, share, hit that notification bell, do all that stuff because I want to hit 2,000 subscribers before my birthday, which is September 7th. So I've got like 145 more to go. So let's make that happen. Anyway, I love you guys. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe I won't. We'll see how I'm feeling. Peace in the Middle East, y'all.